Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we are going to start off with a challenge. So, really, what I want you to do is to add the input actions or input mappings, as I call them. And in order to do that, you need to open up your project, go to Edit, and select Project Settings. Find the relevant input settings there. You can also search for it, but if you look to the menu, if you look at the menu to the left, you can search for relevant settings called input. Also try search for it and you will find it. So in the relevant settings, you will need to add 3 input mappings. These should really be mapped to the axis. So this is an axis mapping we are going to add. You can see that in the relevant settings as well, because you will be able to choose from action mapping and axis mapping. So move forward and move right should be mapped to an axis mapping, and jump should be an action mapping. Okay, we will soon discuss what the difference between these are. And optionally, you can try to create and configure a new game mode base and call it BP Ball Game Mode. We will need this to set our default settings for the level, such as what the default pawn should be. Alright, so please pause the video and give this a try. Okay, hopefully you did most of it, if not all. So I'm gonna click on ESC. I'm gonna use this slide here as a checklist. And before going on, I'm going to show you what I mean with this. If you look at our project here, if you open up the physics ball BP, it's located in content assets rolling ball. This is the physics ball BP. If you look here, we are having some yellow warnings here. This is because this doesn't currently exist. We just migrated the assets and all relevant code inside it to our own project. So that is the reason for why these input actions or mappings does not yet exist. So we are going to add these. But if you look down here in the warning, it says also input axis event references unknown axis move forward, move right. So, and this is unknown action called jump. So we need 2 axis mappings and we need 1 action mapping. And really, in order to do that, what we need to do is go to Edit and Project Settings. And if you look to the left, we have a setting called Input here. You can also search for it up here for Input. So let's click on Input. So we need 2 axis mappings. I'm going to start with the first one called Move Forward. So let's click on the plus here for axis mapping. And make sure to name it properly, exactly like this, move forward. And in order to move forward, I'm gonna use the W key. And we can also configure moving backwards here, really, because in order to do that, we need to add another key called S here. I'm gonna do that. If you click on the plus here, click on this keyboard icon here, and then click on the S button. It will select it for you automatically. However, since we're going backwards now, we can change the scale here to -1. Where is it? Input. I accidentally closed the window. Let me just find it again. Platform settings, bindings. You go to binding section here. Sorry about that. Okay, we have moved forward. And make sure you have a -1 on S because we want to go backwards. This will like reverse what W does. W goes forward with a scale of 1, and this part down here, S, goes backward with a -1. So putting a negative 1 here will make sure it goes backward. And then we need another axis mapping. It's called move right. So I'm going to add one more. Move right. And in order to move right, I'm going to have the D key. And just like move forward, we need the other direction, the A key. So I'm going to add a negative 1 here as well. And then we need an action mapping here because we also need jumping, right? So that's an action mapping, jump. And I'm going to connect that to the space button. So what does these settings do? Well, axis mappings are constantly getting input from the axis it is connected to. And if you look here, we have move forward. And this is really connected to the forward axis, and this is really connected to the right axis. We are getting input here with W, and we are getting another input here called S. However, you can see that this is the scale for that axis. So constantly we are getting input from the axis here, since we have an axis mapping. And this is the scale. So if you click W, you can see that the scale is 1, which means we are going forward. I think this is also best understood by testing this out, which we will do very soon. So, and the same goes for S. S is also mapped to an axis. If you click on S, we will set this scale to -1. But fully understanding this, you need to also check the code on what we are doing, because these are just button mappings to the axes, okay? The actual movement is done via the code, okay? So we will get to that. You will see that very soon. So the most important thing to understand here is that axis mappings are bound to axes. We are reading constantly value from the axis. And as I mentioned, the direction we go here, such as the W, is scale 1, it goes forward. If I would change it to -1, we go backward with W. So the settings we are currently having now are correct. And move right, the same goes with the D key we move right, and with the A key we have a scale of -1, so we move to the left instead of right. And action mappings, well, these are really the opposite to axis mappings. These are not really mapped to any input axis. We only have a button connected to this, okay? So if you click space, we are gonna jump. We are not really reading any values from the axis here. So that's the main difference between axis mapping and an action mapping. All right, so I'm gonna close this down. I would say ignore this message here. It says axis and action mappings are not deprecated. Please use enhanced input actions and input mapping context instead. That's the new way of handling this, but we are not really gonna do that for this project. And we are gonna stick to the older version, the most common one currently. Or at least the most common one I'm used to. So adding that, I'm gonna compile again, because we just added those axis mappings, and you can see that it compiles. We are not getting those errors anymore. And I mentioned that, well, these are connected, the input axis, these are connected to actually an axis. We are reading constantly values from that axis, and you can see that this is the value that comes out. And what do we do with that? Well, what we are doing here is, well, we are doing some math here, and creating a vector out of this, and then doing this, add torque in radians. And this is really adding a twist to the ball. If you look here, we are having the ball object, this one. We are adding a twist to it, so it really moves around in a circular direction. So it rolls, in other words. We are doing a similar thing for move forward and backwards. We are reading the axis value. So as I mentioned, this is usually either a value of 1 or -1, depending on which button we press on. And then we are multiplying it with a value here, roll torque, and then the multiplied value here acts as an input for this vector here. In this case, it goes to the y direction. So the same goes here. We're adding a torque in radians to the ball to make it roll around, either forwards or backwards, left or right. And jumping is an action mapping. It's not bound to any axis, so we only have a pressed or released here. Most of the code are, as you can see here, are built in. This is the code we got from the assets we just migrated from the template project. So really what this is doing is just checking if we are jumping, and if that is the case, we are going to add an impulse. And we are adding an impulse with jump impulse here, and this means we will jump upwards. That is the Z direction. Z direction means upwards. And then we are using this variable here to control whether we can jump or not. And when we hit the ground, we set this jumping to true again, or can jump to true again. So we can get to this true statement here. So we are keeping track of when we can jump or not jump. So we cannot jump several times in the air. All right, so you will see this soon in action, how this works. And for now, we need to do something else. If you go to the content drawer, you go to assets. Let's see, if you go to assets, go to the contents folder. We have a folder called game modes. I'm going to go in here, right click, create a blueprint class, game mode base. Select game mode base here. And a game mode is basically, it defines the game being played, its rules, scoring, and other things of the game type. So really, we can set default settings here. We are going to do that very soon. So if you click on game mode base and name it BP ball game mode. Let's open this. And before we open this, actually, I'm gonna go to actors again, content folder, actors. Let's see, not actors. I think it was in the, yeah, go to the assets. You can go to the rolling ball BP. I'm gonna rename this. Right click, rename BP underscore ball. I think that's a much better name. So let's go back to contents folder, game modes, open up your game mode. So what we're going to do is use this game mode. And it sets many of our default classes that we should use for this level. For example, we can set what the default pawn class should be. Currently those settings are the built-in one. So what I'm going to do is to click here and select BP ball. That's the ball we just created. And for now, I don't think we need to change anything else. Just make sure you have default pawn class selected to BP ball. I'm going to compile and save. So let's go back to ball and let's open up our project again. Okay, I need to minimize this window. And this is our default level that starts up. So if you go to, let's see if I have that window. Okay, if you go to, let's see, window details, world settings. Yeah, if you go to window here and choose world settings, make sure you have this window open. And if you have this open, you should see it here to the right. It says world settings. And what you need to do here in this window, let's see, you have something called game mode override. Currently it's set to none. So for this level, I'm gonna choose our game mode. So select this from the list, BP ball game mode. Now, when we spawn in, it will by default spawn in our BP ball at this current location. And the current location is here at the player start. So you can move this around to choose, where the ball should spawn in. For now, I'm gonna keep it as it is. Let's just click on play and see what happens. And as you can see, we are having the ball here. Try now move this around with the left button, right button, forwards and backwards. And as you notice, we are having some friction here, which means like when you move forward and try to brake, it's still moving a little. It's not entirely braking, instantly. So this makes it a little bit more fun and difficult, especially when the speed is high. However, as you probably noticed, we cannot really rotate our camera. What if you want to rotate around so you can see, the world from some other direction? And that is really something we need to fix, and we will do that in the coming videos. And also, you're able to really change the different settings here for the jump power, for example, how much the ball should twist, because as you can see, I'm moving up, it's twisting forwards now, and now it's twisting backwards, left and right. You're also able to, change the power it has to twist, how fast it's really moving forward and backwards, because depending on the level you're creating, you might want to tweak that. I'm going to click on ESC. Let me quickly show you how this can be tweaked. So, excuse me. So if you open up the BP ball, we have this can jump, but we also have this roll torque. And let's see, we are using this roll torque up here. And the higher this is, the more of a spin we get. So this is really how fast you want to spin to the left or right, back and forth down here. See? So it's, if you select this variable and look to the right, you see you have roll torque. It's value of, well, 5 million or something. There are many zeros here. It's a really high value, and you should keep it like that. Feel free to tweak this and see how the ball behaves. Maybe it moves too fast, maybe it moves a little bit slower, and so on, to see if you can find a speed that works for you. And we have also jump impulse. This variable is used down here, and currently it says jump impulse is 350,000 really. So I'm gonna change this to 400,000. I'm gonna compile and save. Let's us just quickly test this one more time. And by the way, if you want to, you can click on these three dots here and click on new editor window, and it will run the game in a new window. So let's do that. I have a separate window now with a ball. So I'm gonna test my jump power. I raised it a little bit, but maybe we can raise it a little bit more. So let's do that. I'm gonna go back, go to ball, let's see, jump impulse. I'm gonna change so it's currently 400,000. I'm gonna change it to 700,000. Let's see what happens. And let's click on play again. I think this is good for now. We want it to be able to jump a little bit high. It shouldn't be too low, because We might later on in the course create, high edges and the stuff it can, jump on. We will also have a portal actor which you can teleport through and so on. So we need some jumping power. It makes it really a lot of fun. So yeah, this is it for this video. We will continue with this in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.